12 must be really good, huh?
You've got something for him. One. Smart with it. Focus forward.
Go our way eventually, I hope. Appreciate the fast car.
Yeah, guys! Holy...
And what's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Historic Hot Laps. Another busy weekend in racing behind us. Let's jump right into it with some race recaps. Right, we had IndyCar at Thermal. Where do we begin with this one? Let's talk about Prema right out of the gate. Interesting that during practice, Prema had an engine fire that ultimately destroyed the chassis. For Schwartzman, they had to go to a backup car, do a lot of different things there to make sure things were right for him. Schwartzman actually didn't get a single lap in any practice session, and then ended up getting his first laps in during qualifying, which he honestly did pretty good considering, and also being new to the sport. But he is a good driver, we know that, so no surprise there, coming from that Formula world. Qualifying was a wild one. We didn't see a single Penske car make it into the Fast 12. Pato O'Ward gets the pole for the first time in 2 years. Just a lot of shakeup, pretty awesome to see. Before we talk about how this race went, though, let's talk about the broadcast failure over there at Fox. Super unfortunate for everything. For those who weren't watching live, there was a cut in the broadcast for an extended amount of time. It was reported as a power failure with the broadcast trucks, tripped breaker, something like that, but it's a real fail either way. It took a long time to get it back up and running. Lost the broadcast. Fox then goes over and streams the Nascar race, which was, I believe, on FS1, and they were already in the middle of stage 2, so you get thrown into some random stock car race. It's good to cover the dead air time. I get why they did that. They then go back to the IndyCar side of it. Still not right. Go back to commercials, then back to NASCAR. More commercials. They eventually get back to IndyCar for the finish of the race, but man, it was a mess. Real messy, problem to solve. But yeah, second race, a new contract. We know there's going to be bugs to work out, but it's just unfortunate how this one, went overall. I guess also being that this race is 100% a televised event. I mean, there's limited ticket sales. They did allow more fans in this year than last year, as it wasn't a super private event. Still a private club either way. People live there, everything else. So given that, yeah, I don't know, just disappointing. Very little to see on TV with it and everything else. So now as far as the race action goes itself, it was pretty standard thermal. Tight corners. We didn't see a whole lot of issues. It wasn't as exciting as last year's race, in my opinion, even though it was a points-paying race. You'd think they'd be sending it a little harder on this one. We saw a lot of hybrid issues with Chevrolet. We saw some in qualifying, some in practice, and a bunch during the race. It was warm, real warm for the season. Heat soak was rough on those hybrid units, especially on the Chevrolet side. But in the end, came out to the strategy game as always, and the king of precision, Mr. Alex Palou, became victorious once again. That means he has won the first and second race of the season, 2 for 2, and I'm sure Ganassi's more than ecstatic about the whole thing. So congrats to them and that team. They've really got it figured out. But yeah, just a pretty normal race, nothing too exciting. All right, let's move over to NASCAR Homestead-Miami. Had a lot of good stuff going on there. Kicking it off with the Truck Series, we knew Larson was going to try to go for the trifecta on this, running the Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and the Cup race. Larson and Dane come to visit the Truck Series race together. Corey Heim takes the lead over Kyle Larson in Stage 1, takes that victory. Corey Heim again running super strong, takes the Stage 2 victory. Then Stage 3, Larson spins, ends up 22nd on the restart, comes back alive, passes everyone in that final stage there, and takes the win. Just incredible driving. Obviously, Hendrick Cars sponsorship on that Chevrolet. It's a fast truck, did really well. Larson gets the Truck Series win. This sets us up going into Xfinity. The words out there, can Kyle Larson get it, blah, blah, blah. Kyle Larson ends up starting 17th, and by lap 25, he's leading the race, just dominating in the Xfinity race. Multiple cautions, restarts. He had the lead up until the last restart of the stage. Kyle Sieg and Sammy Smith end up with new tires. Sammy Smith ends up passing on the last corner, taking the stage win for stage number 1. Stage 2, Kyle Larson gets it done, maintains strategy, stays up front, gets a Stage 2 win there. Stage 3, Larson ends up with about a half a track lead, but couldn't keep it in the long run. His car was just falling apart towards the end. Allgaier makes the move from the back of the field after a penalty, which was another crazy thing. He started in the very back of the field, which essentially all the way back up in stage 3, similar to what Larson did in the truck race. Allgaier gets the win, riding the wall, gets it done, and he was also a Dash for Cash driver, so he got an extra $100,000 payout on that one, so that's pretty cool to see. So let's go over to the Cup race and what happened there. Moving over there, stage 1, Ryan Blaney definitely had the car to beat that day. Strongest above the Fords by far. He gets the stage win in number 1. Stage 2 comes in with a strong Toyota with Denny Hamlin. Probably the strongest long-run Toyota they had out there that day, giving him the stage 2 points for that, which are much needed. Stage 3, the win goes to a great effort by Mr. Young Money. Yes, once again, Mr. Kyle Larson. It would have been interesting to see how things would go. Blaney lost another engine, which he's been plagued with this season. But this was the time for Larson to finally get redemption as Homestead. 2 out of the 3 for the weekends. Not a bad statistic. Obviously, the trifecta would have been better, but he did what he could do, got some stuff done there. Obviously, great job security for him. He's not going anywhere. So, also mentioned, I didn't cover it in the full race highlights, but he also won the high limit midweek race prior to the Truck Series race. So, really, out of the 3, he got 3 wins out of the 4 events that he was in this week. Pretty awesome to see that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge here, because I feel like for me and what makes me good on the long runs, I don't know if it'd make anybody else good on long runs, but just running the wall at both ends of the track. So it's like when the pace is fast, I can't really do that in 1 and 2 because it's such far distance on entry, and they could be 6 car lengths back of me, and if I go up there they might pass me. So it's like I got to manage the gaps behind me, go to the top when I feel like I have that room to, and so yeah, that's kind of what I was doing. I figured I wasn't going to get a good restart, but I was happy to net out 3rd, and I was like, all right, cool, I can protect from the 19 behind me and run here, and I know I'm going to be better than them if this run goes green. And then I hit the wall. 19 got by me, so I was like, shoot, that's just going to make things tougher. And then I did it again later, and the 11 got to me inside, and I had to battle really hard to hold him off. And that was kind of the pivotal moment of getting the win for me. I think if Denny gets by me, it's over. I don't win. Maybe I can get, who knows, back to the top 3 or something, but it was going to be challenging. So yeah, held him off, and then I got a good enough gap behind him and put some decent laps together where I stretched out on him, and about that same time I could see that they were really starting to come back to me quickly. So I figured they were starting to get really loose in front of me, and yeah, just had to kind of stay committed to what I was doing. And yeah, the 19 had moved up to try and figure out my line in 1 and 2, but he was really slow doing it, so I passed him easily. And then Bubba looked really loose in front of me. Got a big run on him down the back, and was more aggressive with the move into 3 than I was when I was battling for the lead with him the run before. So yeah, passed him, and then yeah, I figured I could get by Alex when I got to him. And then yeah, he just got into the wall. So they were all kind of struggling. They looked really loose in front of me, and so was I, but I think I just had a little bit more tire than they did.
This moves us over to Formula One, the Chinese Grand Prix. This was a sprint and a race. Lewis Hamilton dominated the sprint, setting fastest lap on circuit in history, getting the sprint win as well. He set that fastest lap, I believe, during qualifying for the sprint race. Just overall, showing like real strong car going into the actual race. McLaren and Piastri end up holding everybody off, picking up another set. McLaren, their 50th win in Formula One history. Pretty dominating performance by those two. It appears McLaren has not missed a beat from where they left off last season. Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, they were doing what they could do. They finished 5th and 6th on the grid, but they were actually both hit post-race with disqualifying penalties, and that's a massive, massive blow for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, not to mention Hamilton, Drivers' Championship points. The penalties were Hamilton's rear plank was too thin to spec. I believe it's 9mm tolerance on those, but it was too thin. It means his car was probably running considerably low compared to the others, which disqualifying there. And Leclerc's car was underweight by 1 kilogram. Ferrari blames this on their one-stop strategy. They were basically corded out tires. They're blaming the amount of weight on that, which that's feasible, right? Like 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So it's very possible that Leclerc's car, had they done other strategies, might have come in play, but I don't know. I think they're just pushing the limits like they do. The plank thing, clearly Hamilton's car was too low. That one's maybe. So will they take away his fastest lap track record performance now as well? Probably, but I haven't heard one way or the other on that. So this leads us to Red Bull. Max podium finish, did fine. Like he usually comes to play. He has not had the advantage that I thought he would have this year, but we'll see what Red Bull can come up with. Over development through the year. Second half of the season might be 100% him. It's hard to say, but we talked about it in previous episodes. Let's talk about it again. What's next for Red Bull with Yuki and that Cash App team? Liam Lawson's not performing in the Red Bull after they denied Yuki the job and gave it to Lawson. It sounds like there's a good chance before this week's Japan Grand Prix that there's going to be a swap made. So we'll see what happens if we see Lawson go back to the little sister team over at the Cash App Racing Bulls or whatever the hell it is, and then see Yuki in the full Red Bull here. So I don't know. We'll see. Pretty exciting. Formula One stuff this year has already been pretty dramatic, so I'm sure if they're doing another season of Drive to Survive, that'll be a good one as well. Let's move over to a little dirt track action real quick. World of Outlaws, the 2-day Cotton Bowl Speedway there in Texas, and really there's not a whole lot to talk about on this one other than David Gravel just destroying everybody like usual, showing perfect execution on the weekend, setting new track record in qualifying, winning both the Friday show and the Saturday main event. This puts Gravel in a huge lead for series points. I believe he's 82 points ahead of Carson Macedo now, just a few races into the season. I mean, is he going to be stoppable? Probably not. He's pretty good. So we'll see what comes of all of that. But yeah, he just dominated performance once again, and here's what he had to say about it.
Man, those last 5 laps, I was just hanging on. I kept getting looser and looser and looser, and I didn't want to grab too much more wing because I needed to get through 1 and 2 well. But I saw he was pretty close to me there on the Jumbotron. But man, what a run we're on right now. And, Dash Draw helped tonight, and I felt like we had a pretty good race car there. It seems like sometimes when there's a lot of cautions or reds, our tires don't fire off the best, and I just feel like I lost a little bit of grip there. But can't complain with sweeping tonight. Cody, Zach, and Pete just performing every night, give me great race cars, and give me the platform to show my talent. So got to thank Todd, Taylor, the whole Queering family back home, and everybody at Big Game Motorsports and Houston.
Right, let's talk about a little bit of news. Not a huge news week in motorsports this week. I'm sure now that we're recording this, we'll release this in the morning. There'll probably be 12 stories break, but we'll find out. IndyCar news as it goes. It appears that BHA, also known as Brian Herta Autosport, has inquired about fielding and entry into the Indy 500. Although 2025 is probably not going to happen due to chassis and engine supply, it looks like it could be achievable with some effort in 2026. So that leads us to who's going to drive that car for him, right? I mean, could we see some sort of adaptation control so we can see Robbie Wickens back in a car? I don't know if they'll be able to pull that off with the IndyCar stuff for the 500. He's obviously doing really well, the touring cars and stuff for BHA, but we'll see what happens with that. Pretty exciting to see. Could it be that Colton ends up over doing Formula One, but comes back for the Indy 500 next year with BHA? That one would be tough because Monaco is also that same week. So generally, I know they're working on scheduling conflicts there, but generally it's in the same time frame. So that would be a tough one. But I guess we'll see. Maybe it's a new type of double. We'll see or something. From there, Honda and IndyCar seem to be closer on a decision to extending the long-term engine supplier efforts for IndyCar. We talked about they were going to probably leave the series and everything else, but Honda is looking closer like they're going to renew their efforts and continue with their program in the future. It doesn't hurt that you've got Ganassi winning all these races and getting Honda all these wins. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, a third engine supplier would be perfect, but I don't know that we'll see that. So kind of touched on the thermal broadcasting issues and everything else with that. So TV ratings from thermal are in, and they are not good. Down 50% from the number of viewers for St. So what does that say about the whole product? Did everyone tune into St. Pete and decide this isn't for me, and then don't want to be involved in any more races through IndyCar? I mean, the Chinese Grand Prix outdid thermal, and that race was on at 2 a.m. So I don't know what IndyCar needs to do with the product, other than it is kind of a follow the leader situation right now. This was the biggest drop from race to race on the same network in history, I believe. Down 50% week to week is not an ideal situation going forward. So hopefully everybody over at Penske can figure out, Penske Entertainment can figure something out with Fox. Losing the broadcast definitely did not help. I don't know how they attribute that to those stats, but yeah, not a good look. Moving over to NASCAR, just one little thing real quick. Austin Hill, who drives that RCR car in Xfinity and is super dominating in the Xfinity series, he's set to run 5 NASCAR Cup races with RCR this year as an extra car. He's so dominating, it'll be interesting to see what he does for his skill going to a next-gen type car, if it fits his style, if it doesn't. Just a little addition to that, adding on to the next-gen stats, Kyle Larson is the winningest driver amongst the next-gen Cup Series car, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, wrapping it up there with NASCAR stuff, just a couple pieces, but yeah, we'll see what happens with Austin Hill.
There used to be some local tracks in Racine. There was one at Horlick Field, and there was one in Franksville where you could actually go race. That's where you got to start, and it just progressed from there.
In our family, racing was number 1. My mom was number 2, and those kids were number 3. And I don't think there's a one of us that would complain about that.
Something he had a strong desire to do and just made it happen regardless of what obstacles stood in the way.
My dad was very good about taking care of his equipment and the cars, and he wanted everybody involved to do the same. He didn't necessarily feel he had to be in first place for the whole race. Hopefully he was in first at the end, but it was also important for him to save his cars and not just beat the heck out of them.
And let's talk about some history this week. Doing one I really enjoy on this one. Not that I don't enjoy all of them, but a little history on Norm Nelson, born Norman Huber Nelson, January 30th, 1923, and passing away on November 8th, 1988. Known primarily for his stock car career, Nelson competed in AAA and USAC stock cars through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He won the season championships in 1960, 1965, and 1966 as a driver. He also won 5 owner championships, competed in 5 NASCAR Grand National Series events and won one of those, 35 USAC victories, including 11 at the Milwaukee Mile, which is close to where he grew up there in Racine, Wisconsin. He was nicknamed the Great Dane. He's 6 feet 4 inches tall. A little info per Wikipedia on this one. Nelson prepared for racing when, as a 14-year-old, he borrowed his sister's 1934 Chevrolet and raced it on the back streets of Racine. He competed for the first time in a rainy 1939 afternoon race in a field that was pretty swampy near Pleasant Prairie. His first race ended when his jalopy got stuck on a straightaway again, in the marsh. He continued in the car until 1940-1941 Winter Indoor Series. He got a ride for a midget car at the Chicago Amphitheater. He then ended up driving a midget into the wall in the first corner, racing throughout the United States, ending that in World War II. He did serve in the United States Army. Thank him for that. As a tank operator, after the war ended, he returned successfully to race midget cars. He stopped racing midgets in favor of late model stock cars, which he could race more frequently and develop more skill in. Nelson is introduced into stock car racing in 1948 when a promoter from Milwaukee, Mr. Tom Marches, brought stock cars to the region. Nelson said, "Once I got into stock car racing, I knew it was all for me. I couldn't get into just any midget. We always had to make special ones for me, but being so tall, he fit right into the stock cars with no issues." He raced his first stock car on dirt at the Milwaukee Mile in 1948 and finished third in the 100-mile event. So let's talk about his time in USAC and the AAA. In 1950, Nelson was racing the American Automobile Association Stock Car Division. In its first season, it was leading the national points going into the final race at the Springfield Mile. Second place driver Jay Frank was the only driver who could catch him in the points, and he had to win while Nelson had to not finish the race, and that's exactly what happened. Nelson said the engine on his Oldsmobile blew up and he won the race. So he lost out on that one. During a condensed 1951 season, Nelson lost all of his points earned for winning a race at the Milwaukee Mile after the AAA contest board determined he had used an illegal gear. He was using a special mountain gear in his Oldsmobile. He pointed out that the part could be found in a parts catalog, which was the rules. Nelson won the following race, also at Milwaukee, and the points he lost would have made him the 1951 champion, but unfortunately he did not get that championship either. That was won by Roger Ward. Nelson continued to race in AAA stock car races in 52, 53, and 54 with less success. He had some top fives in Toledo, Daytona, and Milwaukee, but no championships there. Nelson joined up with Carl Kaefer's Chrysler team in 1955. He won a 1955 stock car race at the Milwaukee Mile. Blew his right front tire after winning the race, causing the car to skid into the wall. He caught a race at the Wilmot Speedway in Kenosha in 1959 and won the stock class for modifieds there. He returned to driving at the national level in 1958 and 1959, finishing third in the series championships there. First time that Nelson ever drove someone else's car. He ran the car that Bill Traynor hired him to drive. He won the race at the Coin State Fairgrounds and had several second place finishes during his 1960 championship season. So it took him going to drive for somebody else and focus just on the driving and not driving and owning before you really start to get some success behind him. Beginning in 1963, Nelson hired Gerald Kawicki, who is NASCAR legend Alan Kawicki's father, to build engines for his race cars. Nelson began his 25th season of racing in 1965 by winning the season-opening USAC stock car race at the Milwaukee Mile over Paul Goldsmith. Nelson took the lead away from Parnelli Jones when his engine blew up late in the race, and ended up passing him for the win. 3 NASCAR drivers competed in this event: Richard Petty, David Pearson, and Bobby Isaac. Some legendary names there that competed against him that he won against. Nelson won the Yankee 300 race at Indianapolis Raceway Park in 1965, which was a good points race that contributed to him winning another championship that season. Nelson also won a 150-mile event at Langhorne Speedway in 1966, and he won his 3rd season championship there. He also won his 2nd straight Yankee 300 at IRP that year, so a lot of success in the Midwest for him on those tracks. When Nelson retired from driving in 1976 because of a detached retina, obviously being able to see is a huge part of your driving career, he was tied with A.J. Foyt for the 2nd on all-time USAC victories list with 35 wins. Obviously, Foyt would go on to pass that and take that title. I believe he still holds that title now. So let's talk about his short time over in NASCAR at the Grand National career that he had there. He made his first start in 1955 to Lehigh 300 and won the only NASCAR race later that season after starting on pole position at the 1 mile dirt Las Vegas Park Speedway track. That was a one-time event, and he was the winner of that while driving for Kyle Kaefer and the championship team that he was with there. He led the final 106 laps of the 111-lap race, which was shortened from its original 200-lap race due to the darkness and no lights on the track. Had a late start there, so he competed in 3 more NASCAR races, once each in 66, 67 at Riverside, and 68. So just would pop into NASCAR and do a couple little things here and there and move on with his life. So let's talk about him as a team owner. Even before Nelson's career began to wind down, he began having other racers drive USAC cars for him. He hired Roger McCluskey, who we've covered in the past, to drive for him in 1968. Starting a 2-car operation, Nelson began to wind down his racing career in 1975. McCluskey had to miss a race because of a burned foot, so Nelson drove the car. Other drivers that drove for Nelson included A.J. Foyt, obviously a legend, who we've covered and will probably cover again at some point in a more thorough manner. Nelson's cars started in 13 NASCAR races. 9 of these races ended up in top 10 finishes, 5 of them in the top 5. He got his only win in 1966 as a NASCAR team owner at the Atlanta 500 at the Atlanta International Raceway, but he did have some good top 10s, top 5s, a lot of stats to be had there, so that's pretty awesome to see. So personal life for him, a couple other fun things that he's known for. He's known for saving his equipment until later stages of the races. So Alan Kawicki said, "I can remember guys like A.J. Foyt, Parnelli Jones drove up against him, and Norm wasn't much of a charger in the early hours of the race, but he was always there at the end because he owned his own cars and he didn't want to run them as hard as those guys did until it was time to win. He was a good, smooth driver, very intelligent, and just a huge success when it came to respect by the other drivers. As far as personal statistics go, Nelson and his wife Caroline had 8 children, which ended up being 15 plus grandchildren. He owned a snowmobile sales and repair shop in Racine called Nelson Enterprises. So during the racing off season, he was big into the snowmobiles, and a lot of his kids and his wife worked at the shop as well, really keeping a family business. This is a very successful man overall. Nelson ended up passing away on November 8th, 1988, while at the Zablocki Veterans Administration's Center at the age of 65. and he was buried at the Graceland Cemetery in Racine. Awards and honors for Nelson. Nelson's inducted into the Southeastern Wisconsin Short Track Hall of Fame in 2009, the Racine County Sports Hall of Fame in 2011, and the United States Auto Club, also known USAC, Hall of Fame in 2014. So we'll finish this one off with the description that the USAC Hall of Fame had for Nelson. It goes as follows. Already a winner under the AAA banner, Norm Nelson went on to win 35 events in the USAC Stock Car Series, earning the season's championships in 1960, 1965, and 1966. He was also runner-up 4 times and third in 3 other seasons, in addition to having already been a runner-up under AAA sanctions in 1950. Nelson always fielded his own equipment. After switching from Ford to Chrysler in 1963, he typically fielded a second car for such outstanding drivers as Roger McCluskey, who won the USAC title in 69 and 70, A.J. Foyt was a runner-up in 1963, Paul Goldsmith, and Lloyd Ruby. As a car entrant, Nelson won USAC's seasonal championship 6 times and was runner-up 5 times, a longtime USAC board member. He passed away sadly November 8th, 1988. So that closes out our history lesson on that. Thank you, Norm, for everything you did for the sport. Another good one gone, unfortunately, but that's what built the the foundation for racing as we know it today. As always, thank you guys for listening. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, do all the good stuff there. Follow us on X, Twitter, Instagram, any of it. We've got it all. If you have any questions, comments, would like to do a fan reaction at some point. If you have any questions, please send them historichotlapse@gmail.com. Yeah, that's about it for this one. We've got some good racing coming up this week, so stay tuned for more, and we'll catch you next week. Stay safe, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for sharing your time with us. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us at Historic Hot Laps on X and all your other social platforms for the latest updates and sneak peeks into upcoming episodes. You can reach out to us directly at historichotlapse@gmail.com. Send us your feedback, questions, comments, opinions, and additional subject matter you'd like us to cover. Thanks for tuning in.